10 Habits That Changed My Life. Hello, friends. Welcome to Story English Hub. Today, I'm going to share a story that changed my life forever, and I believe it can change yours too. It's about how I adopted 10 simple habits that completely transformed my English skills, my confidence, and my mindset in just a few weeks. These habits weren't complicated, but they were powerful, and the best part? You can start applying them today. If you're someone who wants to improve your English, increase your listening abilities, enjoy stories, stay motivated, or truly transform yourself, you're in the right place. This story is packed with real-life examples, actionable tips, and motivational advice. So, let's dive into the 10 habits that can help you change your life too. Habit 1. Read every day, even if it's just 10 minutes. This habit was the starting point of my transformation. Reading every day, even for just 10 minutes, had a huge impact on my English skills and my life. Before I started, I wasn't much of a reader. I would get bored quickly, and I often felt frustrated when I didn't understand certain words or sentences. But one day, I decided to challenge myself to read for 10 minutes every day, no matter what. It was a small step, but it turned into one of the most powerful learning tools I've ever discovered. At first, I started with very simple materials. I picked up short stories written for English learners because they weren't overwhelming. I didn't worry about understanding every single word. I just focused on enjoying the story. Over time, I noticed something amazing. My vocabulary started growing, my comprehension improved, and reading became something I genuinely looked forward to. One of the first stories I read was The Last Leaf by O. Henry. It's a short but emotional story about hope and sacrifice. Reading it wasn't easy at first. I had to look up words like pneumonia and vine. But instead of feeling discouraged, I wrote those words down in a notebook and used them in my own sentences later. For example, I wrote, "The vines on the wall are beautiful, and pneumonia is a serious illness." By the time I finished the story, I not only learned 20 new words, but also developed a deeper appreciation for English storytelling. After a week of consistent reading, I realized that I was no longer struggling as much. Sentences that once seemed confusing now started to make sense. My reading speed increased, and I started noticing patterns in English grammar and sentence structure. So, start with something simple and enjoyable. Short stories, children's books, or even articles about your favorite hobbies are great options. Set a timer for 10 minutes and focus on reading during that time. Don't try to understand every word, just get the overall meaning. Use a dictionary to look up unfamiliar words, but don't let that slow you down too much. The more you read, the more natural English will feel to you. Habit 2. Write every day, even if it's just one sentence. The second habit I adopted was writing every single day. Writing is one of the most underrated tools for improving your English, and here's why. When you write, you're not just practicing grammar and sentence structure, you're also organizing your thoughts in English, which helps your brain internalize the language. Trust me, this habit made a huge difference in my confidence and fluency. When I first started, I didn't know what to write about. So, I kept it simple. I began with a daily journal where I wrote about my day, my thoughts, or even just one sentence explaining how I felt. Over time, my short entries became longer, and I started experimenting with new words and expressions. Writing became a way for me to not only practice English, but also reflect on my learning journey. In the beginning, my journal entries were very basic. For example, I wrote, "Today, I went to the park." But after a few weeks, my sentences became more detailed. "Today, I went to the park and enjoyed watching the sunset while listening to music." One day, I decided to challenge myself by writing about a dream I had. "Last night, I dreamed I was traveling to London and talking to people in English." That journal entry was when I realized how far I had come. Writing every day gave me the confidence to express myself more clearly and creatively in English. Later, I started experimenting with writing short stories. At first, they were very simple, but I kept improving with practice. For example, I wrote a story about a boy who lost his dog and found it with the help of a mysterious stranger. Writing stories helped me practice vocabulary, sentence variety, and even dialogue. Tip for you. Start small. Write one sentence a day about your thoughts, feelings, or plans. If you're not sure what to write, describe something simple, like what you ate for breakfast or what your goals are for the week. As you build confidence, try writing longer entries or even short stories. Use tools like Grammarly to check your writing, or ask a friend or teacher for feedback. Writing daily will help you see where you're improving and where you need to focus. Habit 3. Listen to English every day, even while doing chores. Listening is one of the most important skills for learning any language. It helps you understand pronunciation, intonation, and how native speakers express themselves naturally. But here's the best part. You don't need extra time to practice listening. You can do it while you're cooking, cleaning, walking, or even working out. That's exactly how I made listening a daily habit. When I first started, I struggled to understand English audio. Native speakers talked too fast, and I often felt overwhelmed. But instead of giving up, I decided to focus on content that I enjoyed, like podcasts, audiobooks, and YouTube videos. Even if I didn't understand every word, I kept listening. Over time, I noticed that my brain was becoming more familiar with the sounds and patterns of English. One day, I was washing dishes while listening to a podcast about self-improvement. The host said something that really stuck with me. Success is the result of small, consistent actions. At first, I didn't understand the word consistent, so I paused the podcast and looked it up. I learned that it means doing something regularly without giving up. That one word became part of my vocabulary, and I started using it in my own sentences. For example, I wrote in my journal, "If I am consistent in my English practice, I will improve." Listening while doing chores made learning English feel effortless. I wasn't sitting at a desk or forcing myself to study. I was simply enjoying the process. Over time, I noticed that I could understand more and more without needing subtitles or translations. Tip for you. Find English content that you enjoy, like podcasts, audiobooks, or YouTube videos. Play them while you're doing simple tasks like cooking, cleaning, or walking. Don't worry if you don't understand everything, just focus on the overall meaning. As your brain gets used to the sounds of English, your listening skills will improve naturally. Start with slower content if you're a beginner, and gradually move on to faster, more complex material. Habit 4. Speak out loud, even when you're alone. Speaking is often the most intimidating part of learning a new language. I used to feel so nervous about speaking English because I was afraid of making mistakes or sounding silly. But then I realized something important. You don't need an audience to practice speaking. You can start by speaking out loud to yourself. This simple habit helped me gain confidence and drastically improved my speaking skills. Every day, I made it a point to talk to myself in English. I would describe what I was doing, talk about my plans for the day, or even repeat sentences I heard in movies or podcasts. Speaking out loud helped me improve my pronunciation, fluency, and ability to think in English. And the best part? I could practice anytime, anywhere. One day, I decided to practice introducing myself in English. I stood in front of the mirror and said, "Hi, my name is Alex. I am learning English to improve my communication skills and achieve my dreams." At first, it felt awkward, and I stumbled over my words. But I kept practicing every day, and within a week, I could say the introduction confidently and fluently. Later, I started recording myself and listening to the playback. Hearing my own voice was uncomfortable at first, but it helped me identify areas where I needed to improve, like pronunciation and intonation. Eventually, I gained enough confidence to have short conversations with English-speaking friends online. They were patient and supportive, and their encouragement motivated me to keep practicing. Speaking out loud every day, even when I was alone, gave me the foundation I needed to communicate in real-life situations. Tip for you. Practice speaking out loud every day, even if you're alone. Describe what you're doing, talk about your goals, or repeat lines from a movie or audiobook. If possible, record yourself and listen to the playback to identify areas for improvement. Once you feel more confident, Try speaking with a language partner or tutor online. Remember, the more you speak, the more natural English will feel to you. Habit 5. Learn 5 new words daily and use them. Vocabulary is the backbone of any language. Without enough words, expressing yourself becomes a challenge. One of the simplest yet most effective habits I developed was learning 5 new words every day. But here's the catch, I didn't just memorize them. I made sure to use them in sentences, conversations, and even my writing. This habit not only expanded my vocabulary, but also helped me retain the words permanently. At first, I struggled to remember the new words I learned. I would write them down and then forget them after a day or two. But then I realized that the secret to remembering vocabulary is using it. When I started actively using the words I was learning, they became part of my everyday vocabulary. One day, I learned the word grateful. I wrote it down in my notebook and created a sentence. I am grateful for my family. Later that day, I used the word while chatting with a friend. I'm grateful for your advice. It really helped me. Repeating the word in different contexts made it stick in my memory. Over the next few days, I noticed that I was naturally using the word in my conversations and writing. I also learned related words like gratitude and thankful. For example, I wrote in my journal, practicing gratitude every day helps me stay positive. This approach of connecting new words with related ones made learning vocabulary feel more natural and enjoyable. Tip for you. Start with just 5 words a day. Choose words you come across while reading, listening, or watching something in English. Write them down in a notebook or use a vocabulary app like Quizlet or Anki. Then, use those words in sentences, conversations, or journal entries. Don't just memorize the words, make them a part of your life. The more you use them, the more likely you are to remember them. Habit 6. Surround yourself with English. Immersion is one of the most powerful ways to learn a language. When I started surrounding myself with English, it felt like my brain was rewiring itself. I changed my phone's language settings to English, started watching English movies with subtitles, and followed English-speaking creators on social media. These small changes created an environment where I was constantly exposed to the language. At first, it was overwhelming. My phone notifications were suddenly in English, and I had to look up unfamiliar words. But over time, I got used to it. This constant exposure helped me learn new words, phrases, and expressions without even realizing it. One of the biggest breakthroughs I had was when I started watching the TV series Friends. At first, I watched with subtitles in my native language, but after a few episodes, I switched to English subtitles. It was challenging at first, but I started picking up on common phrases like, "How's it going?" and "I'll be there for you." I even began repeating the characters' lines to practice my pronunciation. Watching the show not only improved my listening skills, but also taught me everyday expressions that I could use in real life. Another thing I did was change my social media feed. I followed English-speaking influencers, teachers, and motivational speakers. Scrolling through their posts and captions became an effortless way to learn new vocabulary and understand how English is used in casual conversations. Tip for you. Create an English environment around you. Change your phone's language settings, watch movies in English with subtitles, and follow English-speaking creators on social media. The more you surround yourself with English, the faster you'll improve. Immersion doesn't mean you have to travel to an English-speaking country. It starts with small, intentional changes in your daily life. Habit 7. Ask questions. Be curious about English. Curiosity is one of the best tools for learning. I made it a habit to ask questions whenever I didn't understand something in English. Why is this word used? What does this phrase mean? How do I pronounce this correctly? Asking questions kept me engaged and motivated to learn more. At first, I felt shy about asking questions. I worried that people might think I was slow or unskilled. But then I realized that asking questions is a sign of a curious and active mind. The more questions I asked, the more I learned. One day, I heard someone say, "It's raining cats and dogs." I was confused. I thought, why would anyone say that? So, I asked my English teacher about it. She explained that it's an idiom, meaning it's raining heavily. That explanation sparked my interest in idioms, so I started collecting them in a notebook. I learned expressions like break the ice to start a conversation, hit the books to study hard, piece of cake, something very easy. These idioms not only made my English more colorful, but also helped me understand native speakers better. Asking questions about them made me more curious about English culture and expressions. Tip for you. Whenever you come across something you don't understand, whether it's a word, phrase, or grammar rule, ask someone or look it up online. Use forums like Reddit or language apps like HelloTalk to connect with others who can answer your questions. Curiosity is the key to learning. Never stop asking why or how. Habit 8. Track your progress. Celebrate small wins. Tracking my progress was one of the most motivating habits I ever developed. Learning a language can feel overwhelming, especially when progress is slow. But when you track your achievements, even the small ones, you realize how far you've come. This habit helped me stay motivated and consistent. I started keeping a journal where I recorded my daily English practice. I wrote down what I read, the words I learned, and how I felt about my progress. Every week, I would look back and celebrate the small wins, like finishing a book, understanding a podcast without subtitles, or using a new word in conversation. After 1 month of practicing daily, I realized I could understand simple English conversations without subtitles. I wrote this achievement in my journal and treated myself to my favorite dessert. Another time, I set a goal to write a 500-word essay in English. When I finished it, I felt so proud of myself. These moments reminded me that progress is possible, even if it's slow. Celebrating small wins kept me motivated during difficult times. On days when I felt like giving up, I would look back at my journal and see how much I had already accomplished. It was a powerful reminder that every small step counts. So, keep a journal or use an app to track your progress. Write down your goals, daily achievements, and how you feel about your learning journey. Celebrate every milestone, no matter how small. Reward yourself when you reach a goal. It could be something as simple as a piece of chocolate or watching your favorite movie. Tracking your progress will help you stay motivated and focused. Habit 9. Be consistent, even when it's hard. Consistency is the secret to success in any area of life, and learning English is no different. There were days when I felt tired, busy, or unmotivated, but I reminded myself that even 5 minutes of practice was better than nothing. The key was showing up every single day, no matter what. At first, I struggled to stay consistent. I would practice for a few days, then skip a day or two, and then feel guilty about falling behind. But then I realized that perfection isn't the goal, progress is. I focused on building a routine that was simple and manageable. One week, I was so busy with work that I didn't have time for my usual 30-minute English practice. Instead of skipping it entirely, I listened to a short podcast while brushing my teeth and wrote 1 sentence in my journal before bed. Even those small efforts kept my habit alive. By the end of the week, I realized that I hadn't missed a single day of practice, and that consistency gave me a sense of accomplishment. Over time, I found that consistency became easier. Practicing English became a natural part of my daily routine, like brushing my teeth or eating breakfast. It wasn't something I had to force myself to do, it was just part of my life. Tip for you. Set a daily goal that feels manageable, even on your busiest days. It could be as simple as learning 1 new word, writing 1 sentence, or listening to a 5-minute podcast. The key is to practice every day, no matter how small the effort. Consistency is more important than perfection, and small actions add up over time. Habit 10. Stay positive, believe in yourself. The most important habit I developed was staying positive. Learning a new language is a journey, and it's easy to feel frustrated or discouraged when progress feels slow. But I learned to focus on the progress I was making, rather than the mistakes or setbacks. I reminded myself that mistakes are a natural part of learning. Every time I made an error, I saw it as an opportunity to improve. This positive mindset helped me stay motivated and enjoy the process, even when it was challenging. Once, I accidentally said, "I am boring" instead of "I am bored," during a conversation. My friend laughed, and so did I. That mistake taught me the difference between the two words, and I never forgot it. Instead of feeling embarrassed, I saw it as a funny and memorable learning moment. Another time, I tried to read a complicated book in English and struggled to understand it. Instead of giving up, I switched to an easier book and reminded myself that progress takes time. Staying positive helped me stay consistent and motivated, even during difficult times. Tip for you: be kind to yourself. Celebrate your progress, forgive your mistakes, and focus on your goals. Surround yourself with positive influences, friends, teachers, or motivational content that inspire you to keep going. Remember, every small step forward is progress, and you're doing better than you think. These 10 habits — reading, writing, listening, speaking, learning vocabulary, surrounding yourself with English, asking questions, tracking progress, staying consistent, and staying positive — completely changed my life in just a few weeks. They helped me improve my English skills, build confidence, and discover a love for learning. Now, it's your turn. Which habit will you start today? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Story English Hub for more inspiring stories and tips to help you master English. Remember, small habits lead to big changes.